Hello everybody, welcome to What Culture Gaming. I'm Scott and I've been playing a stupid amount of Monster Hunter World. I've been looking forward to this since it first got announced. I've been playing the Monster Hunter games for years. The last one was like Monster Hunter Stories, there's been Monster Hunter Generations, the last time one was on a console was like Monster Hunter 3 on the Wii U. Basically, people have been waiting for this thing for a long time, and chances are it's one of those franchises that you've heard a lot about, whether you've followed it for over the years or maybe you've just heard about it. It's kind of one of those things that's a little bit like Dark Souls, in as much as nearly everybody knows someone who's into Monster Hunter or you're aware of the fandom. But the thing is, getting around to actually playing an installment yourself has nearly always been pushed to the side because until now, we've never had a major console release. This is the first time the series has been on PS4 and Xbox One, and you can tell. So the basic premise, as you might have guessed, is all down to hunting monsters. It's pretty much you, a whole bunch of different weapons and some armor, and your little feline companion. Now this dude is called a Palico, and Monster Hunter fans will know that you always have a little cat companion. Cats are kind of a thing in the universe, but it's mainly just about suiting and booting yourself up and then going after the biggest possible quarry that you can find. That's always been the core of the game, but the thing that Monster Hunter World does is inject a much needed story and a sense of progression and a narrative that has kind of never really been there before. Monster Hunter World pretty much opens by channeling Jurassic Park. You've got a customizable character that you can design from the ground up, be it male or female, and from there you're part of the 5th Fleet, which are the 5th set of warriors to arrive to this new world, and it's literally called the New World. They basically play up on the whole Jurassic Park style element of a bunch of hunters arriving to the island, and the camera swoops over all the dinosaurs and you get to see a whole bunch of different species and all that kind of thing. Gone is the idea of going from zone to zone like it was on the handhelds, mainly because those consoles just couldn't handle it, and in is one giant streaming world where you go from place to place and you see everything from streams of ants running around on the floor to giant T-Rex looking beasts chomping down on other things. But the thing to pick apart is the combat. Now, for the longest time, this has been one of the most divisive aspects of Monster Hunter. To some degree, it gets compared to Dark Souls. Like, there's a lot of deliberate animation priority going on. Like, if you're going to use any of the heavier weapons, you really need to commit to using them. But one of the things that Monster Hunter World gets right is it finally gives us a dedicated lock-on. Simply because of the lack of buttons or the lack of inputs that were available on a handheld, there was never any real way to keep a monster in your sights. And I know that seems like a really obvious thing, but honestly, it was holding the series back for so long. So what are you actually doing? Well, the games have always been about hunting monsters, and this one's no different. There's a whole reliance on quests and side quests and different things like that. There's a constantly connected multiplayer world that means that at any given time, you're always going to be matched with other players. All of this factors into the way that Monster Hunter plays. Now, I've mentioned a little bit about the story, but that's kind of not really the main draw. It is propulsive enough, and it sort of makes you go from place to place. You're essentially going to do a whole bunch of side quests. You're going to be lining up, like, kill 5 of these, bring home X number of this, try and find, try and explore this campsite or whatever. And none of that stuff has changed. That stuff is very traditional. That's kind of what Monster Hunter's lifeblood has all been about, and to be honest, I wouldn't really want them to change. I kind of think that certain games should have identities and they should stick to them. That's why Dark Souls became so beloved, is because they never ever curtail to any sense of how their difficulty should be. Just in the same way as Monster Hunter hasn't really changed its core feel. They've streamlined some things. For the most part, you're still being dropped into this ongoing world of stats and monsters and armor and different things to rank up, and all of those things are going on at once. That's the thing that a lot of people will say is overwhelming, but to be honest, I think you can kind of go with it. Speaking of things being streamlined, one of the things that we now have is scout flies, which in the old Monster Hunter games, say if you took a contract to go kill some giant velociprey or whatever, fans will know, you basically had to hunt for it. You had to go zone by zone by zone until you found it. And, bringing this to a Western audience or just trying to streamline it or modernize it in a way, you now have the scout flies. So these things will take you to the creature itself after you've tracked a certain number of footprints or maybe marks that's left in the environment. It's really helpful. And to be honest, I think it's a good middle ground. Now, one thing that did stick out to me was that there aren't actually any new weapons. There are all the traditional iconic ones that you associate with Monster Hunter, like the gun lance, like the switch axe, like the little musical thing. All that stuff is still in there, but I kind of thought they would do like some sort of new class. And it plays into that whole element of tradition, or it plays into that way that a lot of fans are going to be coming to this just wanting Monster Hunter as it is on a big screen. And I think, they split the difference in a way that trades the scale for sort of any new mechanics that could have gone a different way. At this stage, Monster Hunter knows exactly what it is. It has its fan base. It's shown over the years that it's not going to yield to people who want it to be more mainstream. So take that for what it is, but if you're coming to this wanting a whole new experience, it's very much the one that was on a handheld on the biggest possible scale. Now, I played the vast majority of this in single player. I did take part in a whole bunch of the betas, and I have been online with this too. But the whole point is, if you want to play the single player, you totally can. The game does encourage you into multiplayer, because some of the wording on the main menu is a little bit suspect. Like, you hit start game, and then it'll then ask you, hey, do you want to join a session? But what it's actually asking you to do is just set up a lobby-style area that other people can join. Basically, the game wants to remain online. online in sort of the same way that a Dark Souls is kind of constantly online. It's always available to let other players jump in. Of course, there are all sorts of privacy settings that you can put on, but you know, some of the most fun things come from, like, say you're fighting some huge beast and you fire an SOS flare straight up into the sky. If another player is looking at the quest board and they click on, you know, any available SOSs, which is basically saying like any other players that are in need, you can beam right in there and just, you know, start helping out. The game actually scales the amount of damage that's required to bring the monsters down depending on how many people you're playing with. It's a lesser amount if you're solo, and then it's another set amount if it's a group of people, whether it's 2, 3, or 4. So overall, the thing that everybody wanted to see was just a bigger version of Monster Hunter. I hope that it's the one that breaks the West. I kind of think that it's gonna be. I mean, you've got things like streamlining of different menu systems, and you have cutscenes, and you have characters, you have a way for people to get into this game. It does have a tutorial, but for the most part, you're gonna just need to jump in and just explore, have a little bit poke around with its various systems and mechanics, because they do all click. And when they do, you'll get a window into why this franchise is so monolithically huge. I mean, this thing dominates over in Japan. Entire families play Monster Hunter together. It's seriously that big, that addictive, and just that polished. It's that sense of perfection, in a way, that makes it so inviting and it makes it so lovable. It's the reason that so many people have become so attached to Monster Hunter over the years, and I honestly think that this is the best version they've had so far. Granted, you can't take it on the go, and we'll hope a Nintendo Switch version arrives soon, but in terms of delivering on a Monster Hunter on PS4 or a Monster Hunter on Xbox One, this is perfect. For me, this is a 5-star game. I just think top to bottom, it's meticulous. The only remote hiccup that I had was a camera getting slightly stuck on an outcrop of dirt as I was fighting some massive thing. And for me, that doesn't really negate all the other positives that are just way, way up there. There's a level of immersion and depth to the weapons, the armor, the crafting, all of that stuff that it just comes across as being purely charming. It's old school and new school kind of both at the same time, and I absolutely loved it. I implore you guys to check it out. Let me know in the comments what you think of Monster Hunter World. I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com, and I'll catch you soon.
Hey guys, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Aren't you a star? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe below. And also, there's probably more content floating up above my head, so why not check that out as well? Could be a laugh. Probably. 6 out of 10.